Hey guys, welcome to my annual predictions. I started this a few years ago where every December I make predictions for the upcoming year. So this is for 2024 predictions. And the timeline is by this time or December in 2024, how things would look. Just as a reference, right now it is Monday, December 11th, 2023. So uh, this year, I wish I could just make a general prediction. Can I just say it's going to be wild, man? It's going to be a wild year. It really will be wild. It'll make 2023 look calm. But no, I got to get more specific. And the trouble is, I don't claim to be a prophet, although I'm very accurate. Last year's predictions, I gave myself a B minus. I was on the money with quite a bit, but I missed a few. This year, man, I don't know. I really I just don't really feel confident because everything's so wild with Ukraine, Trump, and everything. So, but I got to do predictions. So I'm going to throw these out there, realizing it could be like a big miss, but I'm going to do it. And I want to try to be specific as possible because I don't think it's fair saying, oh, by this time next year, the economy won't be that good. Well, what does that mean? That's just real vague. And so I want to try to be specific. And I have some general predictions that maybe aren't that specific, but within there, I try to drill into some specific scenarios like who's going to win the presidency. It's an election year, so I'm going to pick a person and who's going to be the GOP nominee and stuff like that. So I'm going to be specific. So let's get started here. My first prediction has to do with our proxy war with Russia that's happening now in Ukraine. I'm going to go out on the limb, and I think by this time next year, so by December 2024, there will not be fighting in Ukraine, and Zelensky will not be the president of Ukraine. I think Zelensky will be removed in a coup. I don't think he will be executed. I think he'll be forced out. And by this time next year, he'll either be in Florida in one of his mansions or in Tel Aviv. And there'll be someone else in his place. And there won't be fighting, but there won't be a peace deal. There'll be a ceasefire and they'll be working on a peace process, is how it will be described. And I look at this because Putin, despite the Western propaganda, he's considered somewhat of a moderate in Russia. He's not really hawkish. And his goals, as he stated, was to make sure Ukraine stays out of NATO, get Donbass back to Russia because those are ethnic Russians, and keep Crimea because that's historically Russian. I don't think he has designs to take over all of Ukraine. I don't think he even desires that, like to conquer Kiev or anything like that. I really don't. I suspect what will happen. The war is already going bad for Ukraine. This is December 2023, and it will continue to go bad. And it doesn't matter what America can do because we don't have enough manufacturing to give Ukraine enough weapons. And Russia has a larger army. They're making a lot of progress. And eventually, as part of a settlement, Zelensky will leave, and whoever takes over, they will agree with Russia, like, okay, we're going to have a ceasefire. Russia, we're not saying you could keep the Donbass forever or Crimea, but we're saying as part of the ceasefire, we're not going to attack you in those territories. In exchange, you don't attack us. And I think Putin will go for that, but with the one condition that during the ceasefire, Ukraine is not allowed to get ammunition or supplies, any military supplies from the United States or from Europe, because Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire that Ukraine just uses to build back up. That'd be kind of stupid. So they're going to put restrictions. And this is very common when a country wins a war, typically in the past, even in World War One. They put restrictions on the losing side. If they don't totally defeat the losing side, they say you can only have an army this big. Hell, Rome did that with Carthage, and I think the second war with Carthage, they put big restrictions on how big how big your navy can be and so forth. And I think Russia will say, okay, we'll agree to the ceasefire, but you can't expand your troops. You can't bring in new ammunition. We stay in Crimea and the Donbass, and then we'll work out a long lasting peace process. I think this is where it will be. Now, the West will try to spin this, the Biden administration, like, well, this is unfortunate, but it's really a win because Putin wanted to take all of Ukraine and he wanted to take over the world. So, because we stood bravely, unlike the Republicans, against Putin, we stopped him. And hopefully, we can develop a lasting peace. So, I think that's where it will be. So, just as a recap for Ukraine, there won't be fighting in December of this year. There'll be a ceasefire, and Zelensky will be gone. I don't know who will replace him, but there'll be someone else that negotiates with Russia. Okay, the second item is Israel. As I speak now, Israel, they had the October 7th, and they had to do this war. I put war in quotes because it's not a traditional war. The Palestinians, they don't have armies or anything like that. They have militias. I'm not trying to insult them, but they're not strong. They don't have like armored divisions or jet airplanes. I think what will happen is Israel will control Gaza and they will put in a puppet Palestinian to run Gaza that will be friendly with Israel. And to support that puppet, there'll be an international, like UN peacekeeping force, including American soldiers, that will prop up the puppet. Sort of like in Afghanistan. Once we took over Afghanistan, we put our puppet in place, even though he didn't have the support of the Afghani people at all. But we had our Marines around him. So it'll be something similar. And the Palestinians won't be ethnically cleansed 100% out of Gaza, but the population will be reduced. And sadly, many will go to Europe or go to the United States. Of course, not Israel. That'd be genocide. We can't have that. So sadly, I think what's going to happen. So I don't think the so-called war in Gaza will end with a bang. It will just sort of peter out. There'll be guerrilla attacks. Israel with the U.S. will put some Palestinian puppet that's a quote moderate, and it'll still be a mess over there. So that's my second prediction of Israel. The war will pretty much be over, except some guerrilla attacks, and there'll be some head of Gaza, the Palestinians. That's a puppet of Israel and the United States. The third one, this is a big one. I'm on the limb. I think we're going to be in a war with Iran. And the reason I said this is because we're so influenced by Israel, and Israel's going to make the argument, man, we're facing genocide and anti-Semitism, and Iran, they facilitate all of this. They're the ones that supports Hamas and Hezbollah. We gotta get them at the source. And I don't think the United States will be able to resist much. It won't be like an invasion war where we send troops, some boots on the ground, at least not initially. It'll be some missile strikes and air strikes, and we'll take some casualties, but it will mostly be missile strikes on their energy development. And because of that, there's going to have a ramification. It's going to be because Iran's stronger than we think. And so that's going to carry on into 2025. But I think in mid 2024, towards the end, there will be some missile strikes. It'll probably happen right kind of around election time because that gets everyone excited, support the president, that type of thing. So look for a bombing, at least with Iran. It won't be an official war where we declare war, but it'll be a major bombing attack on Iran's energy facilities or nuclear facilities, that sort of thing. So look for that. Okay, the big one, Trump. And I'm going to get hate for this. And by the way, these predictions doesn't mean I'm hoping this will happen. Most of these predictions, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really am hoping I'm wrong. But Trump, I believe, will be found guilty in the kangaroo court. I mean, the jury's going to mostly be people of color, Democrats. They're going to find them guilty. Everyone in January 6th has been found guilty. It's a kangaroo court. He's going to be found guilty. And the head of the GOP, that lady, will say, it's with a heavy heart that we have to remove Trump from the party. And this will create an issue because this will happen sometime in the summer, and Trump will have already won all these states and these delegates. So they will rule, the Republican Party, that those delegates no longer belong to Trump. They have to go to either DeSantis or Nikki Haley or whoever, but those will be the two major candidates. And it's going to be messy, It's going to be a convention like you don't can't ever imagine. But Trump will officially be kicked out of the Republican Party. And Trump, even though he's convicted, he's not going to go to jail right away because there'll be an appeal. So he'll still be out on appeal. And Trump, knowing Trump, he's got a huge ego. He's not going to go quietly. He will say, well, screw the Republicans for kicking me out. We cannot stand with this. I call on all the good Americans to support me as a third party candidate. So look for Trump after he's kicked out of the GOP to run as a third party candidate, kind of like a Ross Perot. He won't get on every ballot. Some shit lib states like Hawaii and California will probably not allow him to be on the ballot because he's a convicted felon, but he'll be on some states. And that will be, boy, it's going to be wild. So that's Trump. Okay. Trump will be found guilty. He'll be removed from the GOP and he will run as an independent. All right, now to the election. All right. Who's going to be the nominee if Trump is gone? I think it's going to go to the convention. It's going to go to the party establishment where they're going to do some wheeling and dealing. And because of that, you see the party establishment. They're like Kevin McCarthy, Lindsey Graham, Mitt Romney. They're not like us. They're not like the base. So they're not going to put Vivek Ramaswamy. I wish they would, or anything like that. It's going to be between Nikki Haley and DeSantis. They could go with either, but I have a feeling the one they're pushing already is Nikki Haley because she covers everything. They will see this as a new branding of the Republican Party. Like, oh, the Republicans, we're always these evil white men. Even Kevin McCarthy pretty much said that recently. Like, oh, the Republican Party doesn't look like America. So this would be the strategy. It's like, oh, we're having a woman and a woman of color that came originally, her parents came from Pakistan. Her first name's Nimrata. And so they're really going to push that. And they like her. She's Israel first. She's a neocon for all these wars. I mean, she checks every box. So they're going to try to position, okay, we're done with the evil Trump. We got our candidate now that we can be proud of because she's female, she's Hindu, Indian, and she's a neocon. And so they're really going to push her hard. She will be the nominee for the Republican Party. I hope not, but that's what it will be. All right. So what will happen in the election then is you're going to have Biden and Harris, and you'll have Nikki Haley, and she'll pick, I don't know, she'll pick someone like Mike Pence or someone like that. She'll pick a white male. And so, and then Trump. So it'd be like a three-way election. And Trump doesn't have a chance if he's out of the party, but he will take a lot of votes away from Nikki Haley. Plus, a lot of people like myself would no way would ever vote for Nikki Haley. A lot of people would not even bother go to the election. But because Nikki Haley and the Republican vote, a lot of it will bleed over to Trump. They're going to split the vote, and Biden will win in a landslide with electoral votes. He'll win most states just because Haley will have a hard time winning the state. Even in Arkansas, who knows? Trump may win Arkansas over Haley. But something like Iowa, maybe Haley will win, and Biden will get New York and California. So it's going to be kind of crazy. We could see Trump win some states, but it's going to be Biden with pretty much a landslide in the electoral vote because, again, Haley and Trump are going to split the vote. And that will put a lot of shock into like the normie Republicans thinking that, wait a minute, this country's not like we understood it. The guy we love is going to prison. It's a joke, our country, the democracy. And at that time is really going to start the seeds of a whole new party than the GOP. I do believe it, but it won't be evident. And really, next December there won't be a new party, but there'll be a lot of dissatisfaction because people will think we don't really have any redress to the government. We're kind of controlled now. And Nikki Haley, she'll be gracious and lose gracefully to Joe Biden, and Biden will win again. So yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to predict this. I don't want this to happen, but this is my prediction. All right. Now, speech and censorship. There's going to be a lot more push to make speech illegal. There already is. We have a First Amendment, but they're going to try to get around that, saying like criticizing Jewish people's hate speech or saying that Israel shouldn't have a homeland. That's hate speech. They have a right to have an ethno state. And they're really, really going to push that. They already are. So that's not a tough prediction. But I think what will happen, and again, I hope this doesn't happen. I love Elon Musk. I love the new Twitter, but I think Elon Musk will, by this time next year, after the elections, he will see that X is no longer sustainable because Biden will be in again. They're going after X and Twitter, and he's already lost most of the advertisers because of groups like the ADL. They do blacklists and they intimidate people. You better not advertise on Musk's platform, or we'll call you anti-Semitic. And so they do that sort of blackmail. And I don't think Elon will. He'll basically say, "Hey, I tried." We already saw a thing about this, how angry he got. He already said, well, if Twitter goes bankrupt or X goes bankrupt, people will know who's responsible. People like the ADL are responsible. And I think his attitude is, hey, I really tried to try to save the republic, to save free speech. But after this election, it's just not possible now. And he'll see the writing on the wall that the government will come after him, the IRS and all the regulators. So I think he's just going to cut bait on X and sell it. And it's going to be sad because then it'll go back to the old way of censoring speech. And it will be a very sad day. So I'm not optimistic when it comes to censorship. I think it's going to get a whole lot worse because people at this point, I think it'll become obvious after this election, we are a one party state in America then. There really won't be, like the Republicans won't have any power. It's just a one party. It'd be like California or Hawaii right now. Republicans are irrelevant. It's a one party state. People will start to realize that's where we are for a lot of factors. One, because of demographics, how the country's changing, but also the corruption. And it will dawn on people that, and you remember Elon Musk, when he first bought Twitter, he wanted to do it to try to save speech. It wasn't an investment. And then he wanted out of it. He goes, I don't want this after all. I want to back out of the deal. And he was sued, so he had to buy it. They forced him because he signed the contract. I think he's doing the best. I really, really, if any prediction I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong in this prediction. But I think by this time next year, he's just going to throw in the towel and give up on X or Twitter, which is going to be very, very sad. Okay, so that's the speech thing. Immigration. This is one that's going to be hard to measure because I don't have a specific thing, but I don't think there'll be chaos on the border anymore. We'll still have millions of immigrants come in, but the Biden administration, they will say, oh, we took control of the border. So there's not, a bunch of Mexicans or people from Venezuela running on under the fence. No, 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 no. Now we just bring them in an orderly fashion, give them their $5,000 gift card and a ticket to your little small town. So they're going to do it in an orderly fashion so there's not chaos. And they're going to say that's a win. Because they're still going to want the mass immigration. This is their goal, to change the country. But the optics look bad now, so they're going to work on the optics. All right, economy. I think we're going to see inflation run hotter than they expect right now. And I'm using the official inflation numbers. I think real inflation is higher, but we'll go with the official. Right now, officially, inflation is 3.2%. I don't see that when I go to the store. Everything is incredibly expensive. My water bill, they just announced, going up 10%. Food is going crazy, but officially it's 3.2%. I think officially by this time next year, it will be 5% official. Now, in reality, it'll be higher, but I think the official government number will be 5%. It won't be hyperinflation technically, like 20, 30%, but it's going to still be painful. And I think we're going to be in almost a recession. A recession is when your GDP growth is negative. We won't be there, but right now, officially, the GDP is 2.9%, and a lot of that's government jobs. I think that's going to be reduced to 1% growth, which, if you look at really what it is a recession. But I look at it to be 1%. And part of the issue Biden will blame it on is there'll be an energy crisis because of this war with Iran, bombing Iran. It's going to cause a disruption in the oil market. Your oil prices are going to skyrocket. So he will say, well, we got to fight the evil axis of Iran. They're anti-Semites, and Holocaust deniers. So we got to bomb them. So if we have to pay more, that's just, the price we have to pay. So they'll blame a lot of the economy problems on the war with Iran, which is Iran's fault because they do all these bad things. So that's the economy. All right. I guess the woke stuff, maybe here's a white pill. I'm usually overly optimistic. I keep thinking, are they going to keep doubling down? Or are they ever going to pull it back? And I'm thinking the regime is, there's going to be an element in the regime saying, like, okay, we got total control now. It's a one party state. We still need white people to run things. We're having a competency crisis, and we'll still have huge tensions with Russia and China. I don't think we'll be at war with Russia or China, but we will be bombing Iran, and we need some white boys to fight for us. So you're going to start to see like the military do more ads with white boys in them, and even just regular ads. You're going to see. We just recently saw a Chevy ad, a Christmas ad, where it was like an all-white family. And there was really nothing woke in it. We're going to start to see a little bit more of that as they try to scale back because they realize they need people to kind of run things, and everything's going to be so tense too. People are going to be talking about forming new parties, secession, states breaking away. So my guess is they're going to try to tap down on that a tad. And even with the whole Black Lives Matter, where they don't arrest people of color when they loot stores, they may scale that back and say, no, we're going to start arresting you if you loot stores. We can't just have everyone like in California looting stores and there's no penalty. There's going to be some penalty now. So there could be a little scale back on that. We will see. We will see. I could blow that. And my last prediction is we will be in the midst of a fiscal crisis because our spending's out of control. And the politicians will say, hey, we're going to have to cut back, not on Israel. No, we can never cut back on Israel, but we got to cut back on your Social Security and maybe some Medicare, Medicaid, and there'll be higher taxes, or Biden will be talking about. And not just for the very rich, but just for regular people. They're going, well, we need higher taxes. We're in a fiscal problem here. And they're going to talk about, I think the big conversation will be unrealized capital gains tax. This is if you have stocks or say crypto or whatever you bought years ago and it's gone up in price, if you don't sell it, you haven't realized any gain. So you don't pay any tax until you sell it and you make a profit. If you should sell it when it goes up. They've been talking about they want to tax you at what it is now, even if you don't sell it. It'd be a disaster. And it's going to, if that happens, it will really crash their markets. But these people are kind of stupid. They're going to be really proposing that. I don't think it'd be implemented now that at this time next year, but they're going to really seriously propose it. So those are my 10 predictions. So I'll try to keep most of these are specifics. I have a couple that aren't specific. Okay, I agree. But let me do the specific again, recap. Ukraine, we won't have fighting this next December. We'll be in the ceasefire. Zelensky will be gone. Russia will have Donbass and Crimea, and they'll de facto control it. Israel, there won't be any more official fighting in the Gaza Strip. There'll be some guerrilla fighting, and Israel and the United States, they're kind of the same now, will have a puppet leader of the Palestinians. And a lot of the Palestinians in Gaza will have left and been immigrants to the United States and Europe. Third, Trump will be found guilty in court, and he will be kicked out of the GOP, and he'll run as an independent. Five, the election of 2024, Nikki Haley will be the GOP nominee at a brokered convention because what they do with the Trump delegates and the party, people that run the party will get in and they'll back Nikki. We'll see it in the general election. We'll see a 3-man or 2-man, 1-woman race. Biden, Haley, Trump. Haley and Trump will split votes. Biden will win in an electoral landslide. When it comes to speech, we're going to see further censorship, especially about Trump. And Elon Musk, I think, will finally get tired of X and see the writing on the wall when Biden wins again, that there's no way to keep this company free speech anymore because Biden and it's kind of like the Bolshevik revolution. They do not want free speech anymore. And they're going to attack it. Immigration. Now, this is the one that is not hard, is kind of hard to measure, but I don't think it's going to be in the news as much with the chaos. It's going to be okay, we're getting them in a more orderly and quick fashion. The economy, I think inflation is going to be higher. Right now, it's officially 3.2%. I predict it's going to be 5%. The GDP right now is 2.9%. Next December, I predict it will be officially 1%. And we will be in an energy crisis due to the war with Iran. And a lot of the inflation and the financial problems will be blamed on Iran. And the woke stuff, this is going to be harder to measure, but I think we're going to see more ads with white people in it as they try to get white people back, and less blatant in your face anti-white stuff. We will see, but I think there may be a little back off on that. And then finally, we'll have a fiscal crisis because of how much we spend. We're not getting enough revenue in anymore. They're going to be talking about Social Security cuts and cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and they're going to be talking about raising taxes, and not just on the super rich, but on the middle class. And they're going to be proposing the unrealized capital gains tax. Whew! So we will see how I do. These are some bold predictions. Maybe I could miss on all of them. I don't know. I don't really feel. I have no idea what's going to happen, except it's going to be really a wild year because it's so wild. I'm my the confidence of my predictions are pretty low. I think my highest confidence is that Trump will be found guilty and removed from the political party and Biden will win. I think that's my highest prediction. And the economy is going to have some issues with inflation still. But the rest is it's kind of a wait and see. So guys, thank you. I hope you enjoy this. And again, as a disclaimer, I don't claim to be a prophet from God. I just analyze the news. And it'd be fun to see this time next year. I will review my predictions and be like, whoa, I was way off. I hope I'm way off, by the way. I really do. I hope Trump is found not guilty. I hope he wins. I hope the deep state is eliminated. I hope we have peace in Ukraine and the Palestinians stay over there. They don't come over here, and we take care of inflation. I hope all good stuff happens, but I can't really predict that. Honestly, I just don't see that happening. So, guys, thank you for watching. Have a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a Happy New Year. Be ready. Next year is going to be crazy. Talk to you guys later.